qu'on fait avec cette première interview? Ça va pas être facile.
The South Side Hackerspace was started back in about 2012 when some students at the Illinois Institute of Technology got together. They decided they wanted a community workshop available to them in the Bridgeport and Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago, which, if you're not familiar with, is south of the center of Chicago. There already is a hackerspace on the north side of Chicago. So those students went to the other hackerspace, Pumping Station 1, and asked, can you help us start a new hackerspace? And the people at Pumping Station 1 said, no, we can't. We're just, too involved in trying to not fail our own space. The people at Pumping Station 1 said, no, they couldn't help them start financially, but they could provide advice to help Southside Hackerspace get its start. That was in 2012. The students started meeting regularly. They got some community members involved, and they were meeting in coffee shops and people's apartments in a leaky garage until they got enough money together to rent their own space. That was on Cermak and Troop. If you're familiar with Chicago, it was about 1,000 square feet. We stayed there until 2015, 14 or 15. And then we rented this space, just because it's a little nicer, a little more accommodating to the kind of things we like to do. And we're very happy here. We've grown to about 50 members at this point, and we're just thrilled and looking forward to grow more. We've got two different membership levels. The full members pay $60 a month, and they can vote, and they get a storage locker here. 24/7 access, voting, storage, everything they could want. No, but voting and storage are kind of the big differentiators. At $35 a month, you can be a member here and get 24/7 access, but no voting and no storage. We do find that a lot of people start at the $35 level, and as they get more and more involved, they want to start helping out more. So they, We do find that people get more and more involved, and as they keep coming back, they want to have more say in how the space is run. So they will start paying the $60 level, become full members, get storage, and become voting, participating members of the community. So at Southside Hackerspace, we have weekly meetings every Wednesday evening. And the purpose of that meeting is to get members together in a room Purpose of that meeting is to get our members together. We discuss upcoming events, we discuss space policy, we discuss decisions that we are making to try to just keep everybody informed on what's going on inside the space. A lot of times we find that email doesn't necessarily cut it. We do find that the people who can regularly attend those meetings do wind up not only getting more involved in the space and how it's run, but they also collaborate more and more with one another. And a lot of the projects that come out of the space are sort of projects for project's sake, or projects that make the hackerspace better, or pieces of interesting art come out of those meetings and people working together there. We also have, and today's one of those days, we have 2 Fridays a month a social night where there's no agenda, just computer games or watch a movie, maybe get some food, play board games maybe. So that's a fairly popular event that we have. And it just helps members solidify their friendships and just become better, they work better together. We find that a lot of our members, I would say half of our members do come from the neighborhood, and then half come from elsewhere in Chicago. Chicago, I grew up in a city called Atlanta, which is very car-centric. You can't get around without a car. And Chicago's a lot better than Atlanta insofar as people being able to travel without a car. But what I've found is that rent is really high near public transit. Mm-hmm. So you have some people who are willing and able to come here on public transit. Maybe they live near public transit and it's only one bus and a couple blocks walk to here. Some people ride their bicycles here. They live fairly close. And then some people do wind up traveling halfway across the city. And those people tend to drive rather than ride a bus or ride a bike.
Okay.
I find that most of the people who come to the hackerspace, I think the most prevalent reason that I hear for people coming to the hackerspace is people want to build things, they want to make things, whatever these things are, inside their house, but because housing prices are what they are in Chicago, they can't afford to do that. Yeah. There's not enough room, or their quarters are too cramped, or their significant other would get mad at them running a miter saw inside their home. I think that the socialization aspect it's an ancillary benefit that the hackerspace affords, and that's a really good question. I don't know how to I don't think we have people who come here who I don't think many people who are members here would have become members here if they had the space and the money and the time to do all of this inside their homes. But I think if a lot of members suddenly were moved into a bigger house where they had that space and money and time, they would keep coming back here because they have made the friends here and they have shared the expertise here. So that's a really good question, and it brings up sort of a good point. Is there a way to market the hackerspace, or to sort of incentivize people to come to the hackerspace, not just because we have tools, but because there are fun and interesting people here? And we are autonomous. 100% of our budget comes from our members. Okay. Well, most of our budget comes from our members. We also have some corporate donations. We don't receive any money from the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois, but we do have, or the country, but we do have nonprofit status, so we're not paying taxes either. We recognize that it would probably be good for somebody familiar with the process of writing grants to try to go to the city or the state or the country to get some money from them. But none of our members have that kind of expertise or the background knowledge required to do so. And I think it is the case that we are doing okay right now. So while extra money would be good, it's not worth the opportunity cost of going out and figuring out how to do that versus not doing that and enjoying your life here. There's the upcoming Chicago Maker Faire, which was supposed to be this month but got moved to August or September. And we are talking about partnering with Make Chicago, which is our neighbor, and possibly one other makerspace to do a project for the Chicago Maker Faire. And also we are members of the Chicago Maker group. I don't think it has a real name, but a collection of people largely organized by the library, but not necessarily directed by the library, who just collaborate on Chicago maker initiatives, trying to get South Side Hackerspace and Pumping Station 1 and Make Chicago and the library makerspace and all of that working together with one another. Another one is the...
with other non-profit organizations?
Yeah, other non-profit organizations. And I guess we're also partnered with the Museum of Science and Industry's Fab Lab, working together with them, trying to send up a high-altitude balloon on August 21st when there's the solar eclipse to take high-altitude balloon photography of the eclipse event itself. And then the other question was about partnering with other nonprofits. Example, yeah, we've talked about that. We've talked about partnering with other nonprofits. Specifically, a couple months ago, there was a lot of argument about the refugee crisis, and one thing that was suggested was we should reach out to refugee resettlement organizations and see if they wanted to send interested people our way. As far as accomplishing projects for possibly lower cost, that's a really good idea. I had not thought of that. For me, a makerspace, well, I draw a little line in my mind between a makerspace and a hackerspace. To me, a hackerspace is very much a free-form idea wherein people get together and they share resources and they share tools and they share expertise to teach everybody how to do anything they're interested in. So South Side Hackerspace Chicago is that we're kind of dirty and we are very much disorganized, and we only really exist because of all the people that come together every week to make this a reality. And if this place burned down overnight, with the South Side Hackerspace would still exist. In my mind, a makerspace is a little more of a top-down idea. It's still a facility that exists for people to do things and to learn things from one another. But it's a little more of a formal concept. So you might have the Harold Washington Library Makerspace. Really exists for people who work at the library to teach people who don't work at the library 3D printers and laser cutters, and for members of the community to try these things and get new ideas and be inspired. But on the other hand, if the library burnt down, the makerspace inside the library would not exist anymore.